What is up, guys? If you're new, welcome to my channel. If you've been watching me slowly but surely upload content, welcome back. If you watched my last video, you'll know that I did a labor and delivery kind of like story time, I guess, and I was supposed to upload part 2, but that just never really happened. I'm sorry, you guys, my fucking wallet just fell and like... I'm so superstitious. I don't even want to talk about it. Okay. So, yeah, I was supposed to do the part 2, but I never did. There's just a bunch of things that happened. I was like, I'm gonna wait until I get my new camera, and it never happened, and I was like, I may as well upload. I've been feeling so sick lately. It's just like, I was like, I feel decent. I might as well just upload. But yeah, I guess I'll just jump right into it. So with the last video, you'll know that basically everything went smoothly. I had my daughter in 9 hours. Like, I was only in labor for 9 hours. I pushed 3 times and she was out. Didn't have a tear, or didn't have a stitch, had a small tear. That's it. Like, she was perfect. I felt fine, you know. And I'm so sorry, I keep feeling like I'm hearing things. If you hear that in the background, that's my washer. Or my dryer. But anyway, yeah, so got home from the hospital. Everything was fine for about 4 days, and then I started feeling really, really sick. And oh my gosh, y'all, my mind. And I started feeling really sick. And fun fact of the day, I have ulcerative colitis. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's basically a chronic illness that I'll have the rest of my life. I'll be on medication for it the rest of my life. I believe it's genetic. And yeah, so I do my best to keep it under control, but hormone changes, stress, eating habits, things like that kind of just affect it. And towards the end of my pregnancy, let's just rewind a little bit. Towards the end of my pregnancy, probably 2 weeks before I had Jetlyn, I started having problems with it. So they put me on steroids. So for the 2 weeks before I had her, I was on prednisone, and everything seemed fine. So I stopped taking it. Fast forward to where I was at. I'm home from the hospital, and I'm feeling sick. So I didn't put 2 and 2 together because I was just like, whatever. I just had a baby. Like, maybe this is normal. But Isaiah took me to the ER anyway. He took me to Truman Lakewood, which, as you all know, is supposed to be like one of the best hospitals, you know, like as far as baby care and like prenatal care goes. And so we're in the emergency room, and they're like, we don't know what's wrong with you. Like, we think it's just your ulcerative colitis. We really don't have a good GI department here. We would rather transfer you downtown to Truman or Hospital Hill if you're willing to do that. And at that point, like, we had just been waiting for so long. I was frustrated. She was like, what, 6 days old? I had a 6-day-old baby, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna go home. It's probably just my colitis. Like, you know, there's been a lot of strain, been a lot of stress on my body. So I get home, and about 3 days go by. So I've been home a total of 7 days at this point. And by that 7th day, I could not function. All the color in my face was gone. I looked gray. At this point, I couldn't even walk. And my grandma was like, you need to take her in. Something is going on. I don't know what it is. And I felt like I was dying. So Isaiah took me in, you know. And basically, so at this point, I went to Hospital Hill because apparently they have like a better GI department. So I went to Hospital Hill, and I mean, they called me back or whatever. They're like, what's going on? They could clearly see that something was extremely wrong with me. They're like, do you have any, like, family history of any illnesses? Like, what's going on? Have you been out of the country? You know, like, all this stuff they ask. And I was like, I have ulcerative colitis, but I've had it since I was 14, and this does not feel like that. This feels like I feel like I'm dying, you know. I can't eat. I'm drinking water, and I'm not keeping it down. I'm throwing it up. Just a bunch of stuff. And so they do a couple tests, and they're like, okay, we don't see anything. And then they draw my blood. And after that, they sit me back out in the waiting room. So they went ahead and took my blood just so the results would be out of the way by the time I got back to a room. And you guys, I shit you not, I guess as soon as the results came back, they immediately came and got me from the waiting room with other people. I don't even think, at this point, like, I don't know where Isaiah was at, but I ended up being by myself. They put me back in a room, like, alone. When the nurses were coming in, they were in gowns, they had masks on, like, I was basically quarantined, and I had no idea what was going on, and I was just so out of it at this point. Like, I was literally laying in a hospital bed with the cold sweats, like, my whole face was wet. I couldn't even move, and I ended up passing out. And I just remember waking up, and my grandma was there, and she was like, what's going on? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even know. Like, they stuck me in this room. I just woke up. I don't know how long I've been out, blah, blah, blah. So finally a doctor comes in, and he's like, I just want to let you know you have an extremely bad bacterial infection, and it's gotten into your bloodstream. That's why we yanked you back here as soon as we got your blood work back, because it is really contagious. And at this point, my grandma was like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm not going to leave her here by herself. And he was like, okay, that's fine. At least wear a mask. But it's extremely contagious. It's in your bloodstream. We're worried. So we're going to get you in a room immediately, and we're going to keep you. And right then and there, I knew how sick I was, and I knew that they were going to keep me. But I had Jetlyn at home, and I started bawling. I was like, oh my gosh. I don't think that I really realized the severity of the situation. Because, again, I have UC, so since I was 14, I've been in and out of hospitals, like, for days, for weeks. And so I just thought maybe it was going to be like that, and it absolutely was not. So they finally get me in a big-ass room, again, by myself, because I can't be around other people. And it's just, you guys, it was worse than childbirth. It was worse than contractions. It was worse than anything, any illness, any pain that I've ever felt. Honestly, would have, like, rather broken a leg or something. It was so bad. And it was just, I think it was just because it was internal. And I don't know, again, I don't know if you guys are familiar with UC, but imagine when you get a cut in your mouth, or you have, like, a sore in your mouth, and you drink, like, orange juice or something acidic touches it, and it burns and it hurts. That's kind of like, that's how the inside of my colon and my small intestine gets. So, you know, I basically have to wait for it to heal. And so that, I had that going on, and then I had an infection in my blood, so it was making it extremely bad. Like, my insides were so swollen. Like, I had lost all this weight, but my stomach was extremely swollen. Like, I looked like I was still pregnant. And they ended up hooking me up to an IV, giving me steroids, like 2 other medications, and then something to fight off the infection. Well, 5 or 6 days in, they're like saying that the medication isn't working. They don't feel like it's fighting off the infection. And I'm like, okay, well, there's really nothing I can do. You know, at this point, I'm still feeling like shit. I'm not getting better. And I was on so many drugs. Like, they had me on morphine, they had me on fentanyl, and I could only get them, like, I think every 3 hours. And every 3 hours on the dot, I was calling my nurse and like, hey, I'm ready for my drugs. It was so bad. And finally, the doctors came in, and the GI team was like, listen, we're gonna cut you off of these pain meds. I know it's gonna suck, but it's hindering the healing process. So for those of you that don't have any like stomach issues or have never seen a GI doctor, pain medication, hydros, oxys, all that, they kind of just hinder the healing of your, what's going on with your insides. And at that point, I couldn't risk it not healing and the process not moving along. So they basically just cut me off. And I'm going to be real, this might be TMI, and I'm really, really sorry if this is a lot, you guys, but I couldn't even keep down water. I'm shitting blood at this point. Like, it was just, I was skin and bones. It was just not, I was hurting so bad. I was sweating. I couldn't even take a shower by myself. It was just the worst thing ever. And I'm doing all of this with 0 pain meds for the next 7 days. I do this, 7, 8 days. And so that's how that went. And I started progressing. And they had that bland hospital food. My grandma obviously would try to bring me like the good shit. And I could take a couple bites here and there, which was more than I was doing days ago. But yeah, so when they cut me off, the steroids really just did their job and sped up the healing process with my colon, and the antibiotics kind of just did what they needed to do. And yeah, I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of crying. I can remember a few times my grandma called and I was bawling. I was like, I'm not gonna make it. Like, I'm gonna die in here. And that's really how I felt. It was really crippling, and I honestly cannot believe that still to this day, I cannot believe that I survived it. It's just, I'm not even making it sound as bad as it was. It was not fun. I was getting poked every 3 or 4 hours. When I got home, my whole arm, I'll have to see if I can find a picture and insert it. If not, I'm sorry, but my whole arm was bruised, like, from them poking me and my veins bursting or whatever, but it was insane. So, long story short, I finally get better, or not all the way better, but feeling a little bit better to where I can kind of keep things down. And the doctor comes in and he's like, okay, we're going to test your blood. If if the infection's not in your blood, then we're going to go ahead and send you home if you feel up to it. But if it's still there, then, we're going to keep you because it's just not safe for you to be home around your daughter or anybody, blah, blah, blah. So they do it, and I'm just praying. I'm like, oh my God, like, please, please don't let me still have this shit. And it came back and everything was fine. I was still kind of having a flare, which is what they call, like, when your colon acts up or whatever with UC. But I was like, I can handle that. Like, just send me home. And so I called my grandma to come pick me up. And I will never forget my night nurse. I had the same night nurse the whole, 13 days I was there. And she was wheeling me out to my grandma's car because I still couldn't walk at this point. And she was like, I will never forget this. This shit scared me. She was like, I am so glad that you're going home. We honestly did not know if you were going to make it. Nobody told me a bitch was dying. I felt like it, but to actually know that I could have died, it's just, they downplayed the hell out of it because, I'm sure my grandma had to be really, really calm because, they weren't going to say that shit to me. But yeah, I literally almost died. And, so, yeah, I got home and come to find out, it was just basically, I found out early on, a little bit before I left the hospital, but basically I got the bacterial infection from Truman Lakewood because they did not sterilize the room while I was giving birth. And if you've ever given birth, even if you haven't given birth, you're laying on a table, your legs are open, there's needles going in your arm for IVs, You may or may not be getting stitched up. You're pushing a baby out. I mean, like, it's just open. There's just so much room for bacteria to just make its way anywhere. And my daughter could have gotten it with no immune system and died. And thank God she didn't, because, like, I would have been in jail. I would have been in jail shitting blood because, like, it's just, it's ridiculous. Like, and so I was like, wow, they really did not sterilize that fucking room. And think about it, like, how nasty is that? Like, how nasty is that to think that, like, you're going in here and you're thinking that you're going to be in a safe, clean environment, you're having a baby, everything seems fine, and then it's just not. And then you figure out that the room you were in was not clean like it should have been. And I was disgusted. So the first thing I did before I did anything else, I called Lakewood and I told them what room I was in. I let them know, hey, I got a bacterial infection. It got in my blood. I almost died from it. I know I'm kind of like almost 3 weeks late, but there's other people having kids there, and I just don't want someone to have the experience that I had. When I tell you guys that they told me that it was common, put me on hold, and then hung up on me, they did not give two shits. They did not care. And maybe it is really common to get a bacterial infection while you're in a hospital, but the fact that I had UC, I think, made it really, really, really bad. And that's just what it was. But I mean, still, it happened. And then after that, I got a hold of a few lawyers, and they pretty much all said the same thing, which was that I could not prove that I did not get the bacterial infection while I was home, as opposed to getting it at the hospital. You guys. So you mean to tell me I was home my whole pregnancy, fine my whole pregnancy, but then I came home from the hospital and I got it? It was just bullshit. And I really should have pursued it, but I was just so happy to be home with my daughter that I didn't. And I mean, I'm not trying to steer anybody away if they really get good care at Lakewood or whatever. I'm just saying, if you guys don't follow me, I'm pregnant with my second kid, and I will not be going back to Lakewood. I would never risk it again. And that's just how I'm feeling. So I'm sorry if I've kind of like scared you guys, but it was just a really traumatic experience, and I feel like I'm even downplaying it a little bit. It's just, it was not fun. So I'm hoping to get better care at the new hospital I will be having my second baby at. And yeah, so that's part 2 of my labor and delivery story. I feel like that was really long. Sorry, you guys. But yeah, I'm gonna try to upload a lot more. Come Valentine's Day, I have a really cute video for you guys. I think you're really gonna like it. So if you could just bear with me. I don't know if I'll upload before then, just because I have a lot going on, but I'm really gonna try to. So if you guys want to wait to see that and you guys want to tune in again, I would really appreciate it. But yeah, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for being patient with me being slow uploading the content. So yeah, thank you.